What is with the fascination that creationists seem to have for the produce aisle? First, we had Ray Comfort claiming that bananas were, quote, an atheist's worst nightmare, because we were supposedly befuddled by the fact that bananas are perfectly shaped to fit in a human hand and had a non-slip surface. Well, after being subjected to levels of ridicule on social media that would induce most of us to change our names and have our faces surgically altered before we were ever willing to be seen in public again, I'll leave it to your imagination as to what people suggested other objects might be that fit perfectly in the human hand. You'd think that the creationists would have figured out that this is not their strongest argument ever. But no. Creationists seem to have the philosophy that if at first you fail miserably, then you don't try again, you beat the idea to death with a blunt instrument. And nobody is better at this than Kent Hovind, who is famous not only for his specious arguments supporting young Earth creationism, but for having spent 10 years in federal prison for tax evasion. Hovind seems to think that the best way to support Comfort's argument is to find other fruits and vegetables that are the atheist's worst nightmare. He starts with lettuce. How could lettuce evolve slowly? By chance. And from what? How many trillions of intermediate steps would there have to be to go from a dot of nothing to a living lettuce plant? Is there any scientific evidence besides lines on paper? Yes, there is. Thanks for asking. Then there were grapes. How could a grapevine evolve slowly by chance, and from what? Wait till you see what they teach on the internet that the grapes evolve from. You won't believe it. No, I probably won't, but please do continue. How could it happen by chance, and from what? How many trillions of intermediate steps would there have to be to turn a dot of nothing into a grape? Isn't that what they teach? No, it isn't. Thanks for asking. Because this was such a wildly successful line of reasoning, Hovind turns to celery. How could celery have evolved slowly by chance, and from what? I would like some scientific hard evidence. What is the ancestor of celery if it wasn't celery? What was it? And if it was something other than celery, please tell me how it changed. How many billions of intermediate steps would there have to be to go from an amoeba to celery? I would say it would take a lot. I would like to see what the evidence is for that. Well, that's going to be problematic because celery did not evolve from amoebas, but once again, thanks for asking. So, what about broccoli? You'll never guess what his argument is. Broccoli. How could broccoli have evolved slowly by chance? I would like an answer to that. A very simple answer. How many trillions of intermediate steps would there have to be to change from an amoeba to broccoli? Is there any scientific evidence for these supposed changes that you guys believe in? Capital B, believe? Evolution is a religion. Is it more logical to believe that maybe broccoli was really created by a smart creator? Hovind seems to like amoebas almost as much as he likes fruits and vegetables. Maybe that's because he doesn't know of any other life forms, so he has to keep coming back to those. To wit, last week's installment, which was about oranges. Once again, you'll never guess what his argument is. You think all of those oranges and the trees that are producing it and the dirt that's holding it all came from a dot of nothing that exploded 13.7 billion years ago? Who'da thunk it? That's a new word I made up. How many trillions of intermediate steps would there have to be to go from a dot of nothing to an orange tree? And where is the evidence? Is there any scientific evidence for all those supposed changes you guys talk about? Could it be more logical to believe maybe that the orange tree was created by a really smart creator? That's the most logical conclusion. Of course, what this all boils down to is the argument from ignorance. The argument from ignorance goes something like this. I can't imagine how this could happen, so therefore, it didn't happen. Evolutionary biologists actually have a pretty good idea of how these organisms evolved, in the case of most of the ones that he mentioned, with a significant help from artificial selection by humans. Hovind is only claiming this because he hasn't bothered to read any of the scientific papers that go into great detail about how this kind of thing happens. And I swear, if I hear one more person say that the Big Bang Theory means that a dot of nothing exploded and made everything, I'm going to punch a wall. I mean, for fuck's sake, if you're going to blather on about something, at least take the time to read the Wikipedia page on it if you don't have the intellect to read more technical takes on the subject. If you can't be bothered to do at least that much, allow me to direct your attention to the definition of straw man argument. Oh, and Kent, you did not make up who'da thunk it. I can remember my dad saying that when I was in high school back in the 1970s. But given your habit of playing fast and loose with the truth, I suppose I shouldn't expect any different. Not to mention fast and loose with the IRS rules. But you have to wonder where he's going to go next. Artichokes? Mangoes? Pomegranates? Bok choy? The possibilities are endless. But it'd be nice if you could change the rest of the argument, because it's getting a little tiresome to read. So you think that a bunch of intermediate changes made a dot of nothing from 13.7 billion years ago into blank? What's the evidence, etc., etc., etc.? He's kind of rung the changes on that one often enough, don't you think? If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. Our resources are down there, and please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.